Yeah, I'm going to put it back on. That black one is covered with little white sparrow on it.
Hey Dennis, how are you?
Good, Grant. How are you?
Doing good.
I've got no response from Michael,
Okay,
so I'll keep bugging him.
I appreciate that. Did the summary look okay?
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay, cool. I made
You know,
it. Sorry,
go ahead.
I made it a couple months ago, and it's just like I don't have too many like statistics yet. That's kind of like what we're working on now. So it's not like perfect. I know that, but hopefully it looked okay at least.
Well, what I'm trying to do is appeal to his, um, wanting to help startups in the community. That's my approach. It's not so much on the particular idea, but they philosophically have to decide to support startups, particularly in the case of this one, was the first medical related winner of the Pirate Challenge.
Yeah,
And it's something they've got to get behind. So, we'll try.
yeah, no, I appreciate you helping us out.
Yeah, I hope it helps.
Me too.
Hey, Allison. So, okay. Hey, Allison, how are you today?
Good afternoon. Good. Are you?
Yeah. Doing okay.
Good.
Hey, Grant, on the technical stuff that you guys are doing, who is doing that work, if anybody?
For like the app development?
Yeah, or whatever technical things are needed. I assume there's some sort of technology necessary to enable the service.
There is, yeah. So we have a guy named Philippe. He was the one that won it either the year before or 2 years before.
Okay, yeah,
Our
I know
challenge.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's been working on making the app, and he made the Apple app, and now he's working on like the Android side of it.
Is the app on the App Store?
It's not on the App Store yet. It's on like a test server thing,
Yeah.
um, called Test Flight. I want to say, yeah, Test Flight.
Yeah.
Um, so we got
When will it launch on the App Store? Because that's a really good reason to ping somebody.
yeah, that's a good. I can ask George. That's a really good question.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's an exciting milestone, and I think makes it real to someone like Michael or others. Hey, Annette. Hey, Sana. How you doing?
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good, thanks. Andy said he might be about 5 minutes late. So I was going to start Christmas carols if everyone was into that or whatever.
I've got a question. I'm thinking about getting some help for my social media. I just don't know that I'm doing a very good job juggling it all. And does anybody have, or do you have any recommendations?
Grant, is there any intern that could help her get set up? Could
Yeah,
Marco or somebody
I was
help?
thinking Marco might be a good fit.
Okay. Can you set up some kind of call or contact so Allison can, talk about that and see? The interns are officially live until December 15th. I found out today. So I'm going to task the hell out of them.
Lucky us.
But
Yeah.
that's pretty straightforward. I think Marco could help. I think even Grant could help. He's being bashful for no reason. He knows that stuff. These kids wake up knowing this. They're born and all of a sudden they know everything. I don't know how it works.
I think it's remarkable. You take all these classes and they say, get out there, put your stuff on there, which I did. And I have someone I've been watching, and their likes or their followers have gone up like 300 in a month. And I'm like, what are they doing that I'm not? I look at their content. I'm obviously not doing something right. I'm getting a few followers, but nothing like that. So
Yeah, I know that talking to Taylor Walden from Simple and Sentimental, she talked about that a couple of times, and her thing has been really heavy content marketing. She writes a lot of articles on her blog and on her website and does a lot. And she said that really boosts the traffic, particularly from Google. The more you write, and if your stuff happens to get picked up by a big website, that helps a lot also. So that was her advice. Is I think for a couple of years there, she was writing something maybe 3 times a week. And you think about it, there's lots of subjects. The holiday season, recipes in your case. Lots of different things you could do. You could tell a story about your experience going live. I mean, there's lots of different things, and it's not something that you may be thinking of, but that's basically what you have to do. So it's the creation of the content, and then the next thing is the delivery of the content. How do you get that out there? And I think Marco can help with that. I use an app called Buffer, Buffer. It's a free app, and it will post up to 3 social media sites at the same time by a calendar. So you can create content and then just post it and set the calendar. I think you can do several weeks in advance if you want, days in advance, whatever. And I'm sure there are other tools out there. Buffer, it's free if you post to 3 sites. In my case, I post to Twitter, Instagram, and I can't remember what the other one is. But anyway, and you can do more, but you have to end up paying if you want to do 5 or 6 at the same time. And then it costs a little bit of money per month, I think.
I think if I get someone can guide me, I can take it once I kind of get the
Yeah,
foundation.
that's my thinking too. Yeah. I think the commitment to generating content is a hard thing for people to do unless you like to write or you have that background. And there's nothing wrong with using videos. You can post videos. They actually have tremendous
Wow.
draw power. So you could have a guest and you could interview the guest and make that video. There's lots of little things like that you can do. And, I don't know if your category would be freezer jam or just jams in general, but, that's a pretty, there's a lot of application to that. And so it's a matter of kind of picking your storyline that you want to kind of promote, whether it's the Johnson County fruit or some angle, and just, keep hitting that theme until you see it isn't working. So Andy Kurtz will be coming shortly, but just to give you all, for those who don't know him, Andy and his wife both worked for the Fresh Market. His wife designed all their stores in conjunction. It's actually the layout of their stores, and Andy is the guy who developed all of their private brands, all their logos, all their graphics. He was the guy that did that. And they have both since, I believe they both now work independently for Buttermilk Creative. And because of Andy's background in kind of a high-end grocery store environment, he was, kind of oriented toward products that would sell in that space. So he's very, very knowledgeable about what buyers are looking for in these kinds of places. Whole Foods is an example. He's just very knowledgeable about that. And he has worked with a ton of snacks and other specialty food people all over the country. And he's kind of a nationally known expert. He actually goes on a lot of national blogs, national podcasts, and so forth. And he's considered one of the top sustainable packaging, consumer packaging kind of guy. And he's also very reasonable cost-wise. He's very conscious of folks in your all's position. He does a lot of work with the Specialty Food Association. He's a member there, North Carolina Specialty Food. And he's also a member of the National Specialty Food Association. In fact, he is giving a paid webinar tomorrow. Exactly what he's given us today. He's actually doing it on a national level for the Sustainable Food Association or Specialty Food Association, SFA. So he's a great guy. And I was a client of his when I had my muscadine juice company. And so he did a lot of work for us. Got to know him, and his little son used to love coming to our farm and playing around with the cows and the horses and all that kind of stuff. So we've kind of stayed in touch over the years, and I'm really glad that we're able to access him, but I don't think it will be much longer. I think he's getting to the point where it's just hard for him to do this kind of thing. Here he is. So anyway, Andy's coming in, but Andy he's a great guy. He's not a bullshitter. He's not somebody who's going to try to rip you off or do something that, is good for him, but bad for you. He doesn't do that kind of stuff. So Andy, I'm singing your praises. I'm tap dancing because you're, running a couple of minutes behind. So don't blush, but anyway, I personally vote for Andy as, he and Andy Galinsky, they're in different areas of the consumer product goods space. But in my view, they're both, just prizes and really, really accomplished and wonderful people. So with that, I will mute myself.
Thank you,
Dennis.
Dennis.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hey, everybody. Like Dennis said, I'm Andy Kurtz, and thank you for being patient. Had to go pick up our daughter while my wife was on a noon PTA call. So, but it was good to see her before her nap time. So anyways, normally what we do with these presentations is it's very, it's not formal, it's very casual. And I just sort of touch on my experience and my background. And then I can share some work that's usually just me sharing screen and going to some of our clients' websites to look at packaging. And then I like to open the floor up and you guys can pick my brain and see if there's any questions you might have. So if that's okay, we'll just do it like that. It seems like it works for other cohorts. So before starting Buttermilk Creative 7 years ago, I worked at the Fresh Market for 7 years. I'm sure a lot of you all are familiar with that grocery store. They're headquartered here in Greensboro, but they spread out some. And I ran their in-house design department. And so that meant I created all the design materials to support the business. So it was signage, point of sale materials, brochures, catalogs, and the thing that I really love to do, which was their private brand design. Now, if you go into a Fresh Market now, you will see a relic of my time in the TFM jerky. So if you go to their jerky set, you'll see like that's one of the last labels that they've cleared out, because after I left, they did the rebrand, and then they did they basically created a line look for their private brand, which means, it's all consistent. Whereas when I worked there, it was more of a Trader Joe's approach where everything had a different look and feel, which was fun and maddening at the same time. But you can go there and see a relic of my work. I get a kick out of it. I don't go there often, but when I do go into the Fresh Market, I always check to see if it's still there. So after I left the Fresh Market, I just wanted to start my own studio doing what I did for them, but for our own clients. And I was lucky in that it was a great stepping stone in education for what when I look back, I'm like, it all makes sense. At the time, I was a frustrated in-house creative, trying to work, being creative in a corporate atmosphere. But when I look back, it all makes sense, because what it did for me was not only set up this incredible network of former TFMers and, people who, and then vendors that we worked with. But it also gave me this great experience within the specialty food and beverage world, which is really where that's where we focus on with Buttermilk Creative. And so I'm fortunate that I had that experience. It really has helped us as a design studio differentiate ourselves as, things have just gotten more competitive, and there's so many more talented people and studios out there, both that have been around for a long time and then are also starting. And so we're very fortunate that we can sort of carve out that niche and become known as being experts in the field. So that's who we work with. We mainly work with small to medium-sized specialty food and beverage brands. We have done work for other retailers, supplementing their in-house departments, because working in-house, especially at a retail and a grocery store, it's a certain set of skills that you need to have. And it's hard to teach just any freelance designer that. So we've helped Wegmans some, and then Publix as well. And so, if you go to buttermilkcreative.com, you'll see that we really lean into packaging design. And that is intentional. And we're trying to go back to my point around differentiation, because there's, if you're, our industry has gotten, you try to be very specific about what you do. So we started off saying we just do packaging design. Now we focus even more on packaging design for specialty food and beverage, just to try to continue to be known as experts in the field. But we do everything. We do branding, identity, e-commerce packaging design, which has really blown up during the pandemic, websites. About the only thing that we don't do is any kind of, we can develop social media, visuals and content, which we do for a couple of our clients, but we don't do any strategy or anything like that. And no Google AdWords or anything like that. But we really are more on the visual side. But we feel like we've had enough experiences over the 15 years that we've been working, that we can add some strategy to our clients' projects and things like that, even though we're not technically a strategy firm. We keep our studio intentionally small. So it's my wife and I, and then we'll bring in freelancers, and my brother-in-law is actually our web developer. So I pretty much do all the client interface and design work. And then when we need help, we'll bring in, some trusted partners that can sort of supplement production and things like that. But we just had some bad, not great experiences working with larger agencies at the fresh market. And so we told ourselves we'd never, sort of grow too big to not have that one-on-one touch. Now that just means we're a little bit more, we're not as prolific as other studios, but I feel like we've sort of over the 7 years have sort of figured out how to balance everything out. And it gives us the flexibility, because we don't have a ton of overhead, to work with smaller studios, smaller firms and brands. So that's nice. We're not always like sort of chasing the Kellogg's and the really big CPG companies, where you can really be nimble and work with folks like you all. So that's a bit about my background. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me just yet. If you just want to unmute and shout them out. If not, I'll switch gears and sort of show some work.
Hi,
Well, Andy, one question. Oh, sorry, Sean, I'll be quiet real quick, but I just wanted to ask, since you don't shop at Fresh Market, where do you shop now?
we shop at Target, Aldi, and then I joined in some Whole Foods, and we do some Sprouts, but mainly it's Target and Aldi. That's our two main places, and it's amazing the selection that you can find at Aldi, and the sort of product discovery that can happen there. It's a great store. It's very
we use that a lot too. That's where we go quite a bit.
Yeah. So I also have I participate in Social Nature. Have you heard of Social Nature?
No.
So I think they're based in Canada, but it's a program where you as a brand, so they've got ways to participate as a brand, ways to participate as a product tester. So as a brand, you submit products to them, and I guess they come up with coupons, and then they come up with the sort of survey questions and things like that. And then they will ping their community, which is what I'm a part of. And so I'll get I'll see that products are available. I ask some questions, and then if I qualify, they will send me a free coupon for that product. And that's another really neat way, because we don't get to do trade shows anymore. So it's another fun way to do some product testing and sort of just see it's all really new. It's either brand new brands, brand new products, or it's, existing brands that are testing new products. So it's an interesting way to do some trial and things like that. I don't know how much it is or anything like that from a brand perspective, but it's a cool program. So anyways,
Sana had something. Go ahead, Sana.
Yeah.
I had a question about your process a little bit. Actually, the challenges you may have faced when you switched over from Fresh Market to starting your own agency. What was your biggest challenge in getting clients? Because you were starting out, you were new, and that versus where you are today, 7 years later, with you're an expert in your industry. I've already attended one of your sessions, by the way, before, so I'm familiar with your work. So have your challenges changed a little bit? So how have you dealt with that?
Yes. So when I was lucky, so my wife also worked at the Fresh Market, and she headed up the store design team. And so we were very strategic about when I left. I mean, we were strategic, but I was also very impulsive about it. And so we knew it was going to happen and at some point soon. So we put together some plans. We mapped out our annual budget, family budget, and all that kind of stuff, had spreadsheets, just so that we could sort of have some known variables in the equation. And then, it just all signs pointed to me leaving. So I left, and then she stayed on for 2 more years. And the deal was if it didn't look like it was going to be a viable option running Buttermilk Creative after 6 months, then I would go find something else. And so even though I wasn't able to replace our income or even my income that I was pulling in from the Fresh Market by that point, by 6 months down the road, we could tell we were going to be able to make something of it. And so, and then she probably could have left sooner, but it was more comfortable for her to stay on 2 more years. I bugged her almost every day to leave. So then as far as initial challenges in getting clients, I would say that is one of the hardest things. We had because when I was at the Fresh Market, I had the opportunity to speak at a couple of national conferences. And so I sort of had a little bit of visibility through, there's a great blog called The Die Line. So they I had written some articles for them, and then I spoke at their conference a couple times. So I had a little bit of recognition, so that it wasn't totally starting from scratch. And so I just sort of built a couple of clients while I was still at the Fresh Market, which was miserable because I'd work all day at the Fresh Market and then I'd work all night on our client stuff. And then when I launched, I was able to sort of lean into really getting out there and trying to connect with people. To be honest with you, it was probably 2 or 3 years of just sort of aimlessly wandering, and I just happened to find clients, or they found me. It wasn't really strategic. I mean, we had the website, we did some email marketing, posted on social media, all that kind of stuff, but we didn't really have a good strategy around it. And then I met one of my old bosses, who also works for one of our sort of off on again clients called Creative Snacks. And we happened to run into each other, and she was like, "You need to go to Expo West, which is a really big trade show." And she was like, "I bet you could just walk the floor and find all these clients." And, she was like, I'll talk to another former TFM colleague who also works at Creative Snacks, and I'll get him to get you a ticket, because when you exhibit, you get a bunch of tickets for free. And so I was part of the Creative Snacks team. I went out to Expo West in Anaheim, I think in 2017. And it was like just the world became color. And I was like, whoa, there's before you just were sort of at the mercy of Googling, who needs packaging designer? Oh, this is a neat brand. I'll email them, cold call, email them, whatever. But here I was able to go and do a lot of research, and then see a lot of the trends that were happening, and then also connect with people and meet people. So then that led me to joining the Specialty Food Association, which is the big national specialty food association. And I started going to their food show called the Fancy Food Show. We go to the summer one, but there's a winter one as well. And it's the same deal. We just go there and we it's smaller than the Expo West. So we're able to connect with people there as well. And so it just sort of opened more doors, and we could be more focused and intentional about who we were reaching out to and talking to. and who we follow up with, and we had faces to names and things like that. I wouldn't say it was like a silver bullet necessarily, but it still was like, it definitely opened a lot of doors. And then beyond that, so then when the pandemic hit, we, couldn't go to Expo West. It's usually in March. So we couldn't go to Expo West in March. I started joining a lot of like networking, virtual networking things. And I got connected with this one guy who's I think he's a lawyer in Austin, and his law firm does a lot of the getting brands ready for investment and funding and all that kind of stuff. And he was able to connect me with all these folks. He's like a super connector, sort of like Dennis, but he was able to connect me with all these folks. And Austin is huge. And so, it was good to just be plugged into that network. And so that further has focused who we reach out to and who we talk to. And so I guess the moral of the story is we're still sort of perfecting it and still sort of trying to get the right mix in there. But we definitely, it's sort of balancing out to, we're getting probably 75% inbound, and then it's about 25% of who we're, reaching out to and trying to work with, which is nice. That, we don't have to work as hard to try and get clients. And then we also have about a 30%, once we do get to talk to people and they go through our little sales process, we hover around the high 20s for our conversion rate, which is pretty good. And that helps us, figure out budget planning and all that kind of stuff. So we've tried to not only try to figure out how and where we talk to people, but then also analyze how we're doing it. And by no means have we perfected it, and we really, like with the pandemic, we really tried to lean into building our, it was really easy to connect with people that we used to just like listen to on podcasts, or we, might have seen on LinkedIn or something. Now they open their calendars up to talk one-on-one and really like become friends with them. And so from there, I was able to go on to a couple podcasts and things like that, which I'd always wanted to do. That's one of the sort of, avenues to building expertise is going on podcasts and becoming a podcast guest. And then you just sort of gain traction that way. So yeah, we're still evolving, but so now it's a bit of, I wouldn't say we have too much work, but it is a bit of a juggle, because you also don't, it's like I have quite a bit of stuff on my plate, but it's also like, when can I sort of release some of the work to, a junior designer or another person? And then when can, but it's so uncertain that I usually just keep everything and try to, I'm by no means am I like burning the midnight oil or anything. We try to be pretty intentional about work-life balance, but I would say that's sort of one of the harder things, is sort of trying to keep everything in line now with the current projects that we have. That was a long-winded answer.
It was good. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will shift gears, and then Dennis, if you can let me share my screen, I can show some work. All right, let's see. Here we go. So the first, there we go. The first client I'm going to show you all is, it's a Greek brand, but the folks who run it are actually over in Winston-Salem. So they came to me, they work for an existing Greek yogurt company called Delta. And Delta wasn't doing so well in the States because it just sort of blended in with all the other Greek yogurts and yogurts in general. It was white packaging with the Greek key design, and I might be able to find some just so you all can see it. And by no means am I knocking them at all, but it just didn't resonate with, yeah, you can see it. So it was just very sort of conventional looking and not very exciting. So it sort of blended in with all the other, sorry. It blended in with all the other products out there. So the challenge was, let's design a Greek yogurt that could compete with, you know, the Chobanis and the Ecos and all the other Greek yogurt brands. And also, you know, from a visual perspective, because we knew from a product perspective, it was superior because it is true Greek yogurt. It's made here, but it's made with cultures from the Isle of Crete. So it's legit. And it's also run by a husband and wife who she's half American, half Greek, and he's 100% Greek. So they're legit. And so what we tried to create for them is a packaging design that they could build on and sort of create more lines, add lines onto it, create something that's recognizable on the shelf. So this deep blue we felt spoke to not only the, you know, the just in customers' minds, what says Greece, which is that deep blue, but then not knock them over the head with the Greek key, the sort of predictable elements that you see in any kind of sort of Greek packaging. This name Meltemi means it's like a wind that blows through the Greek Isles, and it's sort of like the Santa Anas. It's like a trade wind, I guess. And so that was another layer to the packaging was, you know, these sort of organic shapes are sort of like the different islands. And this is the ocean, the Mediterranean water, and it's sort of blowing through the islands, and it creates a nice sort of framework and system so that we can, you know, expand into larger formats like these 32-ounce tubs, and then also their lower sugar line, which we just lightened the blue up. So this is like your way out in really deep Greek water, and this is like up close to the shore, if you will. But the lower sugar line obviously just needed to be very differentiated so that people wouldn't accidentally pick it up. You can see the tops are also, the lids are white, and they have that secondary messaging, and they're white, and then these guys are color coordinated. So the blueberry has a blue, and then like the strawberry has a red. So, you know, we just wanted to create something that would stand out on shelf and just be very interesting, and hopefully make, because the dairy set is a hard set to stand out on it. So there's a lot of color there. There's a lot of blues, but it's not this type of blue. And so we just wanted to try and, you know, come up with something that could, we sort of put Chobani up as like that's who we visually sort of wanted to aspire to be, because they've done such a good job with their redesign. And, but obviously we don't want to copy them. So that's Meltemi yogurt. Any questions? All righty. I'm going to show Whitley's Peanut. This was a client that we worked with a couple years ago, and we redesigned their logo and all their packaging. And so they've pretty much filtered all the new stuff in by now. This has been a couple years out, but I can show you real quick what a before and after. Let's see. And they're based in Virginia. So here you go. That's a perfect example. There's this is the original packaging with this, or the packaging that I redesigned with this sort of gray background, and, you know, the flavor name was down here. And, just, it was very drab. It wasn't very exciting. And it was also, once you got into, I don't know if I can find an example, but once you got into their seasoned flavors, yeah, here you go. See this hot jalapeno ranch? All of their seasoned flavors had different fonts being used on the packaging, and then also different colors. So they had this tan background, but then the name had a different color and font, or the flavor name. It was a bit of a mess. And so what that did was, when they went to develop a new product, that was sort of weighing on them in the back of their mind was, oh gosh, it's such a struggle, to come up with the new font and the new color. It's like we're having to start from scratch with these. So that was another thing, was how do we create a system for them that's going to be easy for them to expand their existing categories, but then also maybe add new categories in the future. And so we came up with this color system here. So the originals are red, which is the Whitley's red, all the Virginia peanuts. And then the mixes, that's this green. And these are all pretty much existing colors that they were using before, because that was also intentional, because they have an older demographic that shops them. And so we didn't want it to be so jarring, and we wanted to have some kind of connection with the old packaging and the new packaging. But we knew that there had to be updates, like very stark updates. I think we call them the candied category, the sweet category. They had this orange. All the seasoned one has this yellow band, but then this badge will change based on the flavor. So the Krabby Chesapeake is red, the ranch is blue, and so on. The chocolates are brown, and then the other nuts are blue. So when you go into their retail shop, it's really nice. You can see, I don't think they have a visual of it, but you can really see how we created those billboards and the brand blocking and everything. And, just really tried to make it so that the shopper would know exactly what they're getting when they go to the store and look for their Whitleys. And then we've expanded into these, the holiday packaging, the special holiday packaging. We've also done some, which they won't have, you won't be able to see it, but we've also done Father's Day, Veterans Day packaging for them, which is a great opportunity if you have the quantities to print out those sort of limited time offering packaging. Like, this is just their jumbo cashews, but they put Happy Holidays on it and people gobble them up. They do. I think they do. They might do some in the candy category. They might do some unique special offerings with their candies for the holidays. But I mean, that's a perfect example. Like, people just love holiday packaging, and you do have to reinvent the wheel for the system, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel from the product side. Any questions?
Did you also design their website? Because it seems very consistent with the new packaging design that you just showed.
I did not. They actually had there was not much done to their, like, obviously the website, or I mean the logo swapped out, some of the colors and fonts swapped out, but for the most part, it was, they really didn't change much from the old website to the new website. We did do the Melt-O-Me website. We also did their logo as well. And they've got some fun little elements to bring their brand visuals to life. So you can see this little spoon here sort of rotates around, and this blueberry sort of jumps up and down. The vanilla spins around. You could see the strawberries sort of move up and down. So just sort of fun things like that. And then also we wanted to bring, they're bringing the packaging elements with these like organic shapes. So like normally when you think about websites, it's very like straight across sections. So we still have those straight across sections, but we just our web developer was able to create these frames that are organic and they float. You know, some are in front of the elements, some are behind the elements, and it just helps to reinforce the look and feel of the whole brand. Even the footer down here has this organic shape, and so does, you can sort of see the header does too, the header navigation. So tried to be very like intentional and try to like bring it to life as much as we can. I'll show one more. This is a brand who he's just D2C, and he does a subscription product, and he's based in Chapel Hill, but he's a professor at Duke, and so he was a little unique in that he was not worried about going on shelf at all. He was just worried about, you know, how is his stuff going to look on, you know, digitally, and then how's it going to look obviously when, you know, when it ships out and goes to his customers doorstep. So his product is, you answer some questions and then he sort of tailors a supplement blend for you that comes in these bags. And so we tried to make, because it's like, you know, it's a very personal thing that you're going to answer questions. I mean, they don't get too deep, but you know, it still seems very like personal. And the personal is in his name. So we tried to create packaging that really felt like it was like one of a kind. And so it has these neat, and it sort of feels like artwork that you might hang on your wall or something. But it has these neat brush strokes that evoke the flavor. So this is antioxidant blend. So it's got blueberry powder, so it's blue. The Everyday Energy, which has matcha and, you know, some wheatgrass and other powders, that's green. Protein blend, which is meant to be very vibrant because, you know, protein, you know, gives you energy and all that kind of stuff. It's got that color combo. Another green blend, like a true green blend. So we had to try to figure out, okay, this one's going to lean more blue. This one's going to lean more sort of yellowy olive, and then anti-inflammatory that looks like fire, and then an athletic protein. And there's just this color combo, this teal and pink and yellow, sulfur yellow, just felt like very energetic. So he then, he doesn't have I don't know if we have a picture of it, but we also designed his e-commerce packaging. So it's a box with his logo on it, but he didn't want to break the bank. And so what we did was we found a vendor who can print just custom black corrugate boxes. So the ink that goes on the box is black. And then he has custom printed tape that looks like his packaging and has his logo on it. And so it was able, you know, we were able to add that pop of color to his e-commerce packaging without, like, you know, him having to invest way too much on like a full color cardboard box.
Hey, Andy, this case is really addressing a question that I have, and that is that, you know, when you and I worked together years ago, we were obviously focused on getting on the shelf of various stores. Yeah. But truthfully, and even I think in our class, there are folks who really aren't particularly focused on getting on store shelves, but are more interested in the e-commerce side. Can you talk about that trend, and do you see that growing, or is it just kind of an even percentage of the market that you see?
Yeah, I think it definitely, when the pandemic first hit, here, while I'm talking, I can bring up another brand. When the pandemic first hit, there was definitely a big push for D2C e-commerce because no one was going into grocery stores shopping, and you had to have a way to get your products out. And so that then morphed into people just thinking, well, I can just launch, or I can sustain myself on just D2C in e-commerce. And it really, so now that we've been going through this for a little while, I think it's sort of leveled out some. And a lot of our clients are definitely moving back to trying to get onto retail shelves. So, it's really hard because you have to invest so much money in getting seen, because it's not just putting your shop together and then hitting publish. You have to be able to get in front of customers. And so that's, investing a ton of money in either like Facebook ads or Google ads. I think the personal nature, I think he was starting his budget was going to be between his Google ad budget when he launched, I think was going to be between 2,500 and 5K monthly to really be seen and on Google ads. So I think it's just, and it depends on what category you're in as well, how competitive the keywords are and all that kind of stuff. But so like, for instance, these folks that I have up right now, we did their logo. This is a small market in restaurant in Spartanburg, and they had their own sort of in-house line of products, and it was under the name of the restaurant. And so when we switched things up, it was called Yep Shake. And so when they wanted to redesign and sort of bring it out from under that, the umbrella of Blue Moon Restaurant and market, we focused on helping them sort of build that Yep Shake brand in the Yep brand, and then put it in, apply it to these all these different flavors. But they're doing a lot of D2C initially, and then they're slowly but surely trying to connect with Lowe's and their local products department and other sort of regional grocery stores to where they are. So they initially were out there doing e-commerce, and then have recognized that they do need to pivot and try to get on more retail shelves, because it's hard to, even though that's an expensive proposition as well, getting on grocery shelves, it's hard to replace the traffic that you can get when you're on a grocery shelf, with just, being anonymous somewhere in the web,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's expensive and hard either way. But there's more and more opportunities for smaller brands. You can see a lot of the big grocery stores are trying to open up the shelves more, because they know that, at least starting off, you don't have the money for all the marketing that's required to get on shelf. So they are opening up more shelf space for new products and things like that, discoveries and stuff like that. But eventually you're going to have to face the music and sort of pay for the, that big investment of getting on the grocery shelf.
Let me ask you also, Andy, on going back to your Whitley's Peanuts, if you're comfortable sharing, what kind of improvement did they see in sales from this turnover? And I know it took them over a couple of years to fully transition, but is there any metric you can give us, just ballpark on that?
There isn't. I don't know if he's an old school guy that he's very, you're the designer, so why are you asking me business questions? Because we asked him testimonials and things like that. Yeah. But what he did say was that this is absolutely over time increase the clarity with their current customers, and they can tell that it's improved reaching out to new customers just because it's a fresher, newer look. And then they're from their wholesale accounts, they got great feedback from them, because really the wholesalers don't have that brand attachment that the customers have. They just want something that's going to look great on the shelf. And so they instantly were excited about it. And so when you have either, whether it's a small boutique or a Harris Teeter or whoever, they're going to be, if the buyer's excited about it, they're going to be more into promoting it and all that kind of stuff. And just, yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you that we did, this was actually this brand that we worked on, Ha Snacks. They actually went through the another accelerator in Austin called SKU. And I was part of the mentor team for Ha Snacks. Now, Ha Snacks used to be called Macro Snacks. And let me see if I can pull up a visual of that, because it's pretty much night and day. Macro Snacks. Yeah. So here's a perfect example of like, let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah. So here's what Macro Snacks used to look like. And he's actually based in Charlotte. Here's what Macro Snacks used to look like. And then we rebranded them through the work at SKU over the 11 weeks with his, I was just one part of his mentor team. He had a naming strategy guy on the team. He had, previous executives on the team within the snacking space. He had an incredible team, but through that work, we were able to rebrand him into HA, which it stands for healthier alternative, because his point is he loves the snack, but he doesn't like how he feels when he eats Cheetos, which is his cheddar cheese, or, sour cream and onion Lay's, or barbecue Frito-Lay, or whatever. And so he's created these really nice protein packed 11 grams of protein chips, like they're like puffs with really good flavors that are meant to replace that. Kids can eat them. So what we really wanted to do when we redesigned his packaging was, with Macro Snacks, he was speaking to a very specific audience, which was sort of fitness people who actually knows what macros are and count macros and all that kind of stuff. The general population that is also the people that snack the most don't do that kind of stuff. They just want something that tastes good and is attractive to them. And so that's why we went this direction with this more fun, just, colorful, again, like trying to stand out on shelf. There's not really anyone who sort of has this deep purpley blue in his, at least in the chip sets that he's going after. There wasn't really anyone who had that color combo. And then this mouth just, it's super fun. It just makes you smile when you see it, which is what, it's supposed to do, because snacking is supposed to be fun and engaging. We also designed you can see his e-commerce box here. I forgot, I was going to tie that in with your question. Oh yeah. Anyways, so results. So let me pull up his results real quick, because we're still part of his mentor team. And this will take me a second, and I'll try to talk and chew gum at the same time. But he updates us pretty frequently, and it's pretty public knowledge, because he raised money through Republic, and so he was sort of updating that sort of public, the public about how he was doing on that platform. So let me see if I can find this, because
Republic is a crowdfunding. Republic is a crowdfunding platform, in case those of you may not be familiar with it.
Yeah, sorry. Let's see. I'm still looking for it.
Did you guys do this website too for him?
No, this was an existing. This was his existing Shopify, and then he just sort of reskinned it with his Ha Snack stuff.
I got you.
Okay, here we go. So this was back in July. So he had launched. So, okay, this is his first 7 days post launch. So it's really quick turnaround of data, but his revenue was up 245%. He had a 3.73 return on ad spend. His conversion rate went up 331% from 2.17 to 6.8. He had 239 new customers, and his cost of new customer acquisition went down significantly to $5.30 from $28 to $35. $28 to $35. So it was almost instantaneous, the change from what he had to what Ha became. And he's been posting really good numbers. Now, again, like a lot of our stuff as designers is very anecdotal because it's like, yeah, I mean, he a lot of those numbers, I think the new packaging and branding does reflect, but then he started getting into more like of these, what is it? Like Snack Magic and some of these places that provide snacks to corporations and sort of e-commerce snack hubs or whatever. So he started getting into more and more of those outlets, therefore, getting in front of more and more customers, new customers. And so but I think a lot of that was attributed to his new branding and packaging. Like these buyers and these companies just weren't looking at him because he was just blah and just sort of one in a million. And now he had something that not only looked exciting, but he was also excited about it. So when he would go and present to these folks and these buyers and brokers and things like that, he would be really excited and energetic about. So it's sort of a whole, it's a lot of stuff tied up with, when you really can nail down the right recipe of good branding, packaging, it really sort of helps the founder or the salesperson sort of go out there and pitch it.
It's a virtuous cycle that kicks in.
I have two questions. So the data that you just shared, that's from within what time period? And also, how long had this product been out in the market before the rebranding happened?
So that was just 7 days. I do have 30 days that I can share as well. I'll share that in a second. So the initial, what I just shared was 7 days. And then he had been out in the market, I think 5 years, just e-commerce, and then just doing like sort of, he was focused on going out to gyms and CrossFit places. So he was on shelf some places, but no retail. He did have some Amazon. He has an Amazon shop and things like that.
Did he do like a big relaunch type of activity with
the
brand?
Yeah. So that that was the other interesting thing is that he has very passionate customers and fans. So when we were starting to go down the direction of rebranding him, we knew we needed to bring them along on the journey so that they weren't blindsided when this new name and look launched. And so we were about 60, 70% done with the packaging design when we sent out an email to just that core group of customers, asking for their opinion. Do you prefer A or B? And it was like, I think we were just switching around like messaging or placement of, it was very minimal, but it still, felt like they were able to, and he also sent out other messaging around, just sort of managing expectations and getting people on board with what the change that was coming and building some excitement and setting the stage and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was, I think that answers your question. So then after 30 days, he had his revenue was up 177%. He continued to gain customers, 1,196. His customer acquisition went up a little bit to $8, but it still was way down from $35. And then his conversion rate online went from 2.12 to 6.95, which I think is where it was in that initial. So anyways, so it continued to grow, and it just continues to build and grow. He's in GoPuff, Snack Magic, and then he had a successful fundraising campaign on Republic. He raised, I can't remember how much he raised, but he beat his goal of, I think maybe 50K maybe or something. I can't remember what his goal was, but he surpassed it. He actually closed it up early.
It's really cool. He had an aha moment is what he had. Yeah.
He calls them. Yeah, that's what we started. And he hadn't really, he's got so far, you know, the only thing limiting him is like we don't do commercials or advertising or anything like that. But if he could get some kind of very witty, like advertising agency to really like develop the ha moment. And that's what he talked about. Like, you know, that's, you know, his customers have ha moments where they, you know, it's like you're sitting there eating Cheetos and you're like, oh, I feel like crap. Oh, I wish there was something better out there, you know? And it's like, ha.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's
this is fantastic, fantastic information, Andy, and you know, several of the folks here are candidates for branding, packaging redos at some point. So I think it's you know, to me as a business guy, you know, I always want to know, you know, what was the end result. So that's why my questions kind of go that way. But at the same time, it's also aesthetically pleasing just to see a better brand, whether you even buy the product or not. It's just making the world a slightly better place, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it definitely I think it does make a difference. It really, I'm actually about this Thursday, I'm gonna do a webinar for the Specialty Food Association about this. It's basically like the basics of packaging design. So sort of like it's part of their Maker Prep series. So it's going to be very tactical and less sort of like dog and pony show. But, you know, there is in it, I sort of try to like sort of lay the initial groundwork to get people thinking about how their packaging, especially if they're going on shelf, is the most important thing of their brand and their company. Their packaging is the most important thing because in the design, because it's your face to the world, and it can be the most amazing product in the world. But if it's ugly and no one picks it up to buy it, then it doesn't matter. And so, you know, I think there are obviously some, you know, there's brands out there that have succeeded, whether it's through brute force of just like pumping a bunch of money and marketing out there that don't have great design. But really for small brands, I think that it's sort of it is an investment. It is expensive to do the packaging design, but it is a great way to sort of look legit and stand out to customers. And so, yeah, in our opinion, it's the most important thing.
Yeah, fantastic. Any questions for Andy before we let him go? He's busier than a one-arm paper hanger, so I want to be aware of that. Anybody have any questions? Okay, you got off, Andy. You're pretty lucky.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for visiting with us again, and you're always a refreshing treat. It's really cool to see what you can do for people like that peanut company and you know, et cetera. I just think it's really cool, and we really appreciate you.
Oh, you bet, Dennis. Anytime. Thank you so much, and thank you all for listening and great questions, and really enjoyed talking today.
One question.
Thanks, Andy.
If we
Yes.
wanted to reach out to you, how can we contact you?
I'll do that. I'll connect
Okay.
everybody. Don't worry.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm the spam cannon. I've got the trigger for the spam cannon, Andy, right?
All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.